They didn't know I was listening, but those 6 words sliced through me like cold metal. Why is she even still here? I wasn't supposed to hear it. But once you hear something like that, it nests deep. It changes you. I stood behind the slatted fence, holding a warm casserole of apple crumble, my late husband's recipe. Still warm. Still mine. My fingers stayed steady even as my chest tightened. I didn't leave. I didn't turn back. I just breathed once, straightened my shoulders, and walked into my son's backyard like I hadn't just overheard my own daughter-in-law dismiss my existence. The yard was buzzing with chatter. String lights hung overhead, people holding plastic cups, laughing too loudly, the kind of laugh that feels rehearsed. Nobody turned when I walked in. Not even the ones who shared my blood. Not even the ones I helped raise. My son's wife, Elena, finally noticed me. "Oh, Honora. Didn't know you'd be coming." Her voice was the same one I just heard behind the fence. "I brought dessert," I said. She didn't reach for it. Her smile stayed tight, polite in the way strangers are. I found an empty folding chair near the edge of the long table. The seat groaned when I sat down. I kept my back straight, hands folded, breath small. A little boy, my grandson, ran past without a glance. "No. Y grandma. No pause. No recognition." When my son Marcus raised a beer and shouted, "To family!" Everyone clinked glasses except me. No one looked my way. I felt invisible and yet painfully present, like a ghost forced to attend her own wake. I stayed until the very end. I stacked plates, wiped down sticky tables, gathered abandoned cups while everyone drifted indoors without a glance in my direction. When I finally picked up my empty casserole dish and headed home, I wasn't angry. I wasn't heartbroken. Just finished. The next morning, I made coffee, 1 cup, not 2. And sat at the kitchen table that once held Marcus's homework and my grocery lists. The house was quiet. In a way that didn't feel peaceful anymore. A decision was forming. Sharp. Quiet. Certain. And I didn't know it yet. But the papers I was about to pull from my filing cabinet would change everything about the life I thought I still belonged to. Some truths don't shout. They wait in drawers, in file folders, in signatures you barely remember writing. And when you finally open them, they don't just answer questions. They end illusions. I pulled out the old metal filing cabinet, the one that stuck if you didn't yank first. Inside sat a folder labeled Marcus House. I hadn't touched it in years. I never needed to. Back then, I believed family was built on trust, not paperwork. But belief can make a fool out of you. I laid the documents on the table. The purchase agreement. The deed. The letter I wrote when I gave Marcus the down payment, $42,000 drained from my retirement fund. The line that made my throat tighten. No repayment expected. Just helping my family build their future. Their future. Mine apparently ended the moment I handed them that check. I read my own handwriting again. And again until the words blurred. I couldn't decide which hurt more, the generosity or the naivete. I knew then. They didn't just forget what I gave. They never valued it in the first place. That afternoon, I called Lena Brooks, a woman I met years ago at a card game. Sharp mind, sharper tongue. She worked in probate before she retired. Knew the laws people pretend don't exist. "Bring everything tomorrow," she said. "Don't sort it. I'll sort it." She didn't ask what happened. She heard it in my voice. The next morning, I put on real shoes. Not the slip-ons I wear to water the plants. When you're about to shift the direction of your life, you dress like it matters. Lena's house smelled like peppermint and fresh floors. She flipped through my documents quickly, her eyes steady and unflinching. "You gifted the money. Legally, it's theirs," she said. I nodded. "But that doesn't mean you're powerless," she added. "You can't take the house back, Nora. But you can decide what they never get again." She slid a checklist toward me. "Accounts, beneficiaries, medical directives, wills. You still have control," she said. "If you're ready to use it." I folded the checklist slowly, deliberately, and placed it in my purse. That night, in my kitchen's quiet glow, I took a pen and wrote Marcus at the top of a sheet of paper. Then I drew one simple line through his name. It wasn't anger. It was clarity. And as I set that pen down, a thought surfaced, dark, calm, undeniable. If they erased me from their lives, I could erase them from mine legally. The first real act of freedom isn't dramatic, it's quiet. It's the moment you stop waiting for someone to value you. The moment you realize you can redraw your life without asking anyone's permission. Wednesday morning. I baked a pie I had no intention of sharing. Blueberry, my favorite, not theirs. I used the good crust recipe, the one I used to save for holidays or whenever Marcus's kids came over. Back when they still cared enough to come over. This time, the pie was for me. I sat on the porch while it cooled, knees tucked under an old blanket stitched by my late friend, Doris. The neighborhood was calm. Kids on bikes, someone mowing their lawn 2 houses down. Afternoon sunlight glowed warm on my face. It should have been an ordinary day. Around 4 p.m., a car pulled into the driveway across the street. Elena's sister, Marissa, hopped out, arms full of groceries and a bottle of wine. She didn't knock, just walked inside Marcus's house like she belonged there. Like family. I hadn't been invited over in months. Not since my granddaughter Sophie's birthday, where they sat me near the trash bin because the music might be too loud for you back there, Nora. Sophie didn't open my handmade gift until I was gone. I'd seen them twice since then, once at the grocery store, the second time at the library. Both times, they pretended I was a stranger browsing nearby. Sophie didn't even say hello. She just glanced at me like I was a teacher she barely remembered from 2nd grade. Back then, I still kept a drawer full of tiny surprises for them. Stickers, pencils, little notebooks. A silly habit from when they used to giggle and hold out their hands like I had magic. That day, I emptied the drawer. Every sticker, every notebook, every tiny treasure. I placed them all in a paper bag and carried it to the curb with the recycling. I stood there for a long moment, watching the bag sit untouched. Just like me. That evening, Marcus finally texted, "Hey Mom. Elena says she might have hurt your feelings Sunday. She didn't mean anything by it." I read it twice, then deleted it. No reply. Not this time. At 7 p.m., a knock at the door startled me. My breath caught in my throat, some foolish part of me hoping maybe. But it was just Kay, my neighbor, holding a container of lentil soup, and asking if I'd seen her missing cat. I hadn't. But I invited her in. We split the blueberry pie right there at the kitchen table. 2 women, 2 forks, 1 quiet kindness. She didn't ask about my son. She didn't ask why my voice sounded tired. She just said the pie was so good it made her knees hum. We laughed, really laughed. I didn't know how much I needed that. But when Kay left and the house fell quiet again, I knew the next door I needed to close wouldn't be nearly as gentle. Some endings don't begin with shouting. They begin with a signature. A single pen stroke that finally says enough. After Kay left, I walked down the hallway toward the shelf where I kept my important papers. My footsteps sounded too loud in the quiet house. I picked up a framed photo, me and Marcus in 1991. He was missing a front tooth, clinging to my arm like he'd drown without it. I whispered to that little boy, "I miss you. Not the man you grew into. Just you." Then I turned the picture face down. In my desk drawer was an envelope labeled Legal Documents, Nora. Inside? My will, my health directives, and the power of attorney Marcus signed after my fall 3 years ago. He never asked how I was healing. Never checked what the responsibilities were. He just assumed he'd be the one making decisions someday, as if entitlement was a birthright. I sat with that document a long time. The next morning, I returned to Lena's home office. Quiet, organized, smelling faintly of lemon cleaner. She pushed her glasses up her nose when I set the power of attorney in front of her. "I want it revoked," I said. "Today." She studied my face. "You're sure?" "Yes." "No hesitation. No tremor." She nodded. "All right. I'll prepare the revocation and get it notarized." Her printer hummed to life. Paper slid out. She handed me a pen. My hand felt steady, steadier than it had in years. This wasn't vengeance. This was reclaiming something I should have never handed over so easily. My autonomy. When the signature dried, she moved on. "What about your will?" "Remove Marcus completely," I said. My voice didn't crack. "No executor role. No inheritance. Nothing." Lena tilted her head. "And the house?" "Sell it when I'm gone." Donate everything to the Harbor Haven Women's Shelter. Her eyebrows softened with something close to respect. You're very clear about this. I've been unclear long enough. 2 hours later, I left her home with a folder full of documents, fresh, notarized legal. Decisions that once would have scared me now felt like armor. That afternoon, I came home to a blinking light on my answering machine. Marcus's voice played through the static. Mom, I don't know what's going on. Call me back, okay? I deleted the message. Then I blocked his number. The silence afterward didn't hurt. It felt earned. But the next morning, when I called a locksmith to change my locks, I didn't know that choice would set off a chain of consequences I could never take back. Freedom doesn't always come with fireworks. Sometimes it arrives disguised as a locksmith, a stranger handing you keys to a life no one else controls anymore. The locksmith arrived early Saturday morning. A young guy named Austin with kind eyes and a toolbox that clinked like a jar of coins. He replaced the front and back door locks in under an hour, humming softly as he worked. When he handed me the new keys, shiny, cool, unmistakably mine, I felt a shift inside me. Small, but seismic. I made 4 copies. 1 for my purse. 1 for a fireproof box. 1 for my neighbor Kay. 1 for my safety deposit box. The old keys? I dropped them into a drawer without ceremony. They no longer opened anything that belonged to me. That night, I slept for 8 hours straight. No dosing. No listening for footsteps or voices, or the creak of a front door that might open without warning. Just rest. The next morning smelled like rain, soft, metallic, familiar. I put on my boots and walked into my yard. My marigolds drooped like tired shoulders, and the soil felt cool and forgiving beneath my gloves. I clipped faded petals, trimmed stems, breathed deeply. The shears in my hand didn't feel like gardening tools. They felt like control. At noon, I drove to Crescent Valley Credit Union. A small branch with quiet lighting and patient employees. The kind of place people overlook, which was exactly what I needed. I'd like to review all authorized users on my accounts, I said. The manager, a woman named Trina, pulled up the information. You have 1 cosigner and 1 authorized cardholder. Marcus J. Carter. Your son. I didn't flinch. Used to be. She blinked, just once, then asked, would you like to remove him? No, I said. I want to erase him completely. Her fingers hovered above the keyboard. You mean? Yes. Remove access, cancel cards, reissue everything in my name only. Lock the online account. New passwords. New security questions. Trina typed, her expression shifting from professional neutrality to something like admiration. While she worked, my eyes fell on the pothose plant on her desk, green, strong, trailing steadily toward the floor. Once, I had a pothose in Marcus's nursery, back when he was small and gentle. Before life taught him indifference. Trina printed the updated forms, slid them across the table. Your accounts are solely yours now, she said. No one can reach in and take what's not theirs. I signed everything with a steady hand. When I left the bank, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt clean. Back home, I opened my lockbox and lifted out old papers, the deed to my house, insurance policies, birth certificates. I slipped Marcus's birth certificate into a new folder labeled past. Then I put it away. That evening, I carefully crossed out his name in my address book. 1 precise line through each letter. I thought that would be the end of it. I thought silence would finally settle. But the next knock on my door wasn't silence at all. It was the beginning of a confrontation I'd been avoiding for years. Some knocks don't ask for entry, they demand it. And the moment I heard that one, slow and deliberate, I knew peace was about to be tested. It happened 3 days after I'd erased Marcus from my accounts. I'd been packing small things, dish towels, photo albums, old quilt pieces, sorting what deserved to follow me into the next chapter. Then, knock, knock, knock. Not Kay's soft, apologetic tapping. Not the mailman's hurried rap. This one was practiced. Heavy with expectation. I opened the door only a few inches. And there he stood. Marcus. His car idled in the driveway like it feared being left out of the confrontation. He looked older than the last time I really saw him. Creases deeper, shoulders slumped, eyes darting everywhere but mine. You changed the locks, he said. Yes. You blocked my number. Yes. He shifted, confused, maybe even offended. Why? What's going on, Mom? I studied him the way you might study someone you used to love, but barely recognize. The boy who used to bring me dandelions from the yard was long gone. You laughed, I said quietly. His eyebrows pulled together. What? In the backyard, when Elena wondered why I was still alive. His mouth opened, but no words came out. I didn't know you were there, he muttered finally. It was just a joke. A joke has to be funny, I said. That was cruelty dressed as humor. He exhaled sharply. So that's it? One bad moment and you cut me out. One moment. I almost laughed. No, Marcus. That moment was simply the last one. He swallowed hard. Sophie says you're letting her visit. I am. So she gets a pass? No, I said. She came to me honestly. You came with excuses. His jaw tightened. This is about money, isn't it? You're punishing us. This is about dignity, I said. Something you stopped offering years ago. For a long moment, we just stared at each other. Two people with the same chin, the same stubborn streak, the same history, but no longer the same truth. I'll always be your son, he said, almost pleading. And I'll always be the woman who gave you more than she should have, I replied. Then I gently closed the door. Not slammed. Not locked. Just closed. Behind it, I heard him linger, breathing, shifting, maybe hoping the door would reopen the way it always used to. It didn't. 7 minutes later, I let myself cry. I counted them. 7 minutes. No more. Then I wiped my face, brewed a cup of tea, and packed another box. But the universe wasn't finished testing me, because the next person who showed up at my door wasn't Marcus. It was Elena, and she didn't come to apologize. Some visitors don't come for conversation. They come to reclaim control. And when I saw Elena standing on my porch in her bone-colored coat and perfect lipstick, I knew she wasn't here to talk. She was here to win. She didn't wait to be invited in. She stepped past me like the house belonged to her. Like I belonged to her. Morning, Nora, she said, voice clipped and polished. We need to discuss this situation. I shut the door slow enough to remind her this was my space now. She stood in the center of my living room. Feet planted, purse gripped tight, eyes sharp. She looked like a woman delivering a closing argument. She expected to win by default. This is getting out of hand, she said. You've blocked Marcus. You've changed financial access. You've upset Sophie. And now we hear you're moving. All true, I replied, calm as a still pond. She blinked, thrown off by my lack of apology. We're your family, she said, like the word carried legal weight. You can't just erase us over a bad day. I tilted my head. It wasn't a bad day. It was the day the truth got loud enough to hear. She scoffed. We never asked you for anything. That's the problem, I said. You didn't ask. You expected. Her jaw tightened. I don't know what Marcus ever did to deserve this. He's a good man. Good men don't laugh when someone wonders why their mother is still alive. Elena flinched, only for half a second, but enough. That's not what was meant, she snapped. You're making this dramatic. Punishing everyone. Especially Sophie. That name almost pierced me. Almost. Sophie came to me herself, I said. She came with honesty. Not entitlement. Elena paced, heels clicking like impatient punctuation. You've always been difficult, Nora. You take everything personally. No, I said, voice steady. I just finally stopped pretending your behavior didn't hurt. She stopped pacing. Studied the stack of boxes near the door. You're really leaving? I am. And what then? She demanded. When you're alone in some little apartment. When no one's around to help you. When Sophie moves on. What will you do then? I held her eye and spoke plainly. I'll still have myself. And that's more than I've had with all of you. Her lips parted. Maybe in disbelief, maybe fury. You're throwing away your family, she said. No. Ikurakta shufli. I'm keeping myself. She picked up her purse, straightened her coat, and walked toward the door. Don't expect us to come running when you change your mind, she said, hand on the knob. I'm not running, I replied. And I won't. She left without another word. The door clicked shut, not loud but final. Minutes later, my phone buzzed with a message from Sophie, just 5 words. Is she gone? I'm coming. And that was when everything shifted again. Some footsteps make your heart brace with fear. Others make it soften. And when I heard Sophie's timid knock, 3 light taps, like she hoped the door would answer gently, I knew this visit wasn't like the others. I opened the door to find her standing there in an oversized hoodie, rain-frizzed hair, and sneakers with the laces half-tied. Her eyes, wide unsure, held none of her mother's sharpness. I wasn't sure you'd open, she said. I wasn't sure you'd knock, I answered. She stepped inside slowly, like she was afraid of disturbing the air. I guided her to the kitchen table, the same place where I'd made her hot chocolate after school years ago, before Elena decided my house was too cluttered and outdated for kids. Sophie picked at a piece of banana bread I'd baked earlier, tearing it into little crumbs she never ate. Mom says you've lost it, she said quietly. That you're angry, cutting everyone out. I poured her tea, set the cup down gently. I'm not cutting. I'm choosing. She stared at the crumbs. I think I copied how they acted. Toward you. And I didn't question it. And then I started missing you. Something in my chest cracked, not painfully, but like a rusted hinge finally moving. I didn't rush to comfort her. That reflex was gone now. Instead I asked, what are you sorry for, Sophie? She swallowed, pretending not to see you at the library, laughing that day in the backyard, ignoring your birthday. I knew it was wrong. I just wanted to belong. Belonging shouldn't require cruelty, I said softly. She looked up, and for the first time in a long time, she looked like the little girl who used to hold both my hands to cross the street. Can I come back? She whispered. Just me. Not Mom. Not Dad. I breathed in slowly. You can come back only for honesty. Not pie. Not gifts. Not because you feel guilty. She nodded. I can do that. We talked for nearly an hour. Not about Marcus. Not about Elena. About her English class, a stray cat she fed behind the school, the book she was reading. Simple things. Real things. Before she left, she slipped a folded drawing onto the table. I made this last night. It's not perfect. After she walked down the driveway, I unfolded it. A woman, chin lifted, sitting before a chessboard. 2 pieces left on her side. A full set on the opponent's. But the woman was winning. She's just starting her game, Sophie had written in the corner. My eyes stung, but didn't break. And later that night, as the house settled into its quiet, I realized something. If Sophie was brave enough to return, then I needed to be brave enough to leave. Because the next step wasn't emotional. It was physical. It was time to find a new home.